objectives, we need to be honest. The war today is far different than the war was on February 24th. It's a completely different conflict. And therefore, the Russian objectives have likewise, I believe, changed, even though Russia still calls it a special military operation. Russia's at war with NATO. Russia's at war with the United States. Russia's at war with Ukraine. They still call it a special military operation, but the reality is this is a war. The fact that Russia chooses to prosecute this war with limited military resources is a compliment to the professionalism and the political patience of Russia. I will tell you right now, if you had asked me in March if I thought that this war could extend into the summer months with this kind of sustained, intense combat without Russia mobilizing, I would have said you're high. Because basic military math, I mean, let's just go with offensive military operations. You want a 3-to-1 advantage. That's just classic military math. If I'm attacking you, I need 3 of me for every 1 of you. Russia flipped that on its head, and they're attacking with 1 of them and 3 of the Ukrainians. So that right there is a problem. The other thing is intensive, large-scale ground combat in a European environment of the sort that we're witnessing in Ukraine today. You don't get casualty ratios that deviate far from 1-to-1. I mean, you might see in a situation, for instance, if you take the great Russian victories, destruction of Army Group Center, and the great envelopment victories after Stalingrad. The casualty ratios were like 1.2 dead Germans for every 1 Russian. Even though they were great Soviet victories, the Germans killed a lot of Soviets in the process. I mean, it was grotesquely dangerous. And here we're looking at, levels of lethality that have gone up by orders of magnitude in terms of the weapon systems involved. We're dealing with highly trained military on the part of the Ukrainians, competent leadership. And I would have been shocked to see Russian-Ukrainian casualty ratios, especially with a 1-to-3 disadvantage, that veered too far away from 1-to-1. So if we're looking at a Russian victory requiring the inflicting of 75,000 dead Ukrainians, I would have said, man, that's going to be a lot of dead Russians too. That's not happening. I mean, there's a lot of dead Russians, so I'm not minimizing the costs. A lot of dead Russians, a lot of dead Lugansk and Donetsk militia members. Let's not pretend that this is a bloodless victory. It is not. But the casualty ratios are in the order of 1-to-5, 1-to-6, 1-to-7. For every Russian or Donetsk militiaman that goes down, Lugansk militiaman goes down, 6 or 7 Ukrainians are going down. The answer is the professionalism of the Russian military. Okay, I'm not here to blow smoke up anybody's, what. The Russians are human. They prove that every day because they die. They make mistakes. And when new weapon systems are introduced, it takes Russia a moment to adapt. The HIMARS, we can talk about that later. The appearance of HIMARS on the battlefield, is thrown a curveball. But if you know anything about baseball, one pitch does not a game make. Hey, nice curveball. Strike 1 on the Russians. Try it again.
Yeah.
The Russians are adapting. And here's the deal. Russia started this conflict, and we need to be honest. The Russian military, as professional as they were untested, largely untested going into this conflict. Oh, yes, Syria. Syria is a small-scale conflict. You weren't operating at the combined arms army level in Syria. We're not talking about joint operations on the scale that's being seen in Ukraine. It was an untested, modern, professional military that had an untested doctrine. And they had an untested organization. And they applied that in the initial phases. We've had this conversation before where they deviated from doctrine. They sought take a softer approach. It wasn't war. It was a special military operation, et cetera, et cetera. And they did okay, but not great. Not great. They suffered some setbacks. But the beauty of professionals is you only have to hit them in the face once before they say, I don't want that to happen again. And the Russians have adapted their doctrine, adapted their organizational structure, adapted the way they fight dramatically. I will tell you right now that the battalion tactical group that you saw on February 24th does not exist today. It's been transformed into something different, something that has additional attachments. They've taken away superfluous units. They've created the perfect military unit for the operation they are being called upon to fight. And they have perfected a system of support where it is sustainable, meaning that you're not burning your troops out on the front. You're fighting, you're accomplishing the mission, you're regrouping, resting, re-equipping, going back into the fight. And they have this cycle in play that is just a machine that is going in and doing the job. And they are so effective at this that they are able to achieve these kill ratios. Now you say, well, wait a minute, why aren't Ukrainians so professional? Why aren't they doing the same? I'll introduce, and I'm sure many people know the name John Boyd, U.S. Air Force Colonel, fighter pilot. And old Boyd, I forget, it was 13-second Boyd or 20-second Boyd, whatever. But his thing was, you get in a jet fighter, I get in a jet fighter, we go head to head in 13 seconds, I'm going to shoot you down every single time because I will initiate certain maneuvers that cause you to react to me, and I will get inside your OODA loop, the observe, orient, decide, act loop, decision-making cycle. Once I get inside that loop, you're dead every single time. Well, Russia is so deep inside the Ukrainian OODA loop that the Ukrainians don't stand a chance. Ukrainians are reacting to the Russians. There is no let up. The Russians continue to push and push. There's no pause. The Ukrainians don't get a chance to go back and go, whoa, let's take a look at what we're learning. Because every time they step back, bam, the Russians hit them in the face again. They're now up, hands up, defending. They don't have a chance to do anything other than rope-a-dope, and it ain't working. So that's why the Ukrainians are dead. Now, the West is trying. The West is trying to infuse new equipment. But how do you insert equipment into a military that's not organized, trained, or prepared to accept this equipment to maximum value? You can't. The U.S. is providing outstanding intelligence support. I'm an intelligence officer. I like good intelligence, but I can give good intelligence to bad people and it's useless. And I don't mean the Ukrainians are bad. I mean the Ukrainians right now are on their back foot. I'm giving them intelligence that says we need to maneuver up forward, jab, jab, pump, pump. And they're going, hell no, I'm getting hit in the face. I'm going back. I don't have time to use this intelligence properly. The Russians are in the OODA loop on tactical, operational, strategic level, militarily. The Russians are in the OODA loop, and this is as important politically and economically. The Russians right now are controlling Europe's economic future. Europe is not in control. Russia is. Russia can hit switches anytime they want and get things to happen. And Russia, I think, is being very mature about this, meaning that rather than, because another thing is when you throw your best punch and you don't knock the other guy out, you got problems. So maybe the best thing to do is just jab, 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 and make them think you got the knockout punch. I'm not saying Russia doesn't have the knockout punch, but if Russia does what we did, because we came in with the Sunday haymaker, hey, Russia, sanction, boom. And Russia went, thank you, we got it. And now we're adapting.